Hi, everybody. Jennifer Schaus here, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., and thanks for joining us in our Webinar Wednesday series. We are covering the top 40 government contractors over the course of the next 40 weeks. We're actually, I think, into week number 3 or 4 at this point, so thanks for joining us. Today's webinar, as are all of our webinars, is complimentary and recorded. You can find the recordings on our website, but for a faster alert, if you log on to our YouTube channel and sign up for the alerts, you'll get a notification when this and any of our other webinars are uploaded, and those are all complimentary. If you're looking just for the PowerPoint, you can hop over to slideshare.net, and you'll find more than, I think it's about 500 or 600 PowerPoints on government contracting posted there. A little bit about us: we do provide consulting services for government contractors who are established and revenue generating companies. Our primary service, however, is helping companies get onto the GSA schedule. You can find more information about us on our website, which is simply jenniferschaus.com. As I mentioned, we've got almost 600 videos on our YouTube channel, over 5,000 subscribers, and now we actually have 25,000 newsletter subscribers and over 26,000 LinkedIn followers. This slide needs to be updated. We've got our quarterly networking event coming up on Monday, March 20th. That takes place over at the Kennedy Center in the cafe, which is on the terrace level. It's 2 hours of networking. We have 8 government agencies, 2 divisions, from the Navy. We have DHS, HHS, and a host of others. They're all listed here on this slide, as well as plenty of sponsors, including FedBidSpeed, which is one of our sponsors in today's webinar series. We also want to thank our in-kind sponsors, the Virginia PTAC, as well as the Greater Reston Chamber of Commerce, for helping to promote the event and also the webinar series. So our webinars are complimentary thanks to our sponsors. Otherwise, we would charge a fee for you to attend and for us to pull the data and everything else that's involved in putting on a webinar. We want to thank our friends over at GovEvents. They are the premier platform for posting events and webinars in the government contracting industry. They've got all of our webinars and the recordings posted there. Fairfax County Economic Development Group has an online calendar where we post our events. I don't believe any recordings are posted there. Again, you can find them on our YouTube channel. And then Set Aside Alert. So that's Tom Johnson and his team at Set Aside Alert. They're the go-to publication for contracting opportunities for small, women-owned, veteran-owned, hub zone, and 8A firms. If you visit setasidealert.com, you'll get more information about their services. Okay, more importantly, we want to thank our friends at GovSpend and FedMine. They are providing the data in the entire webinar series, so all of the charts that you'll see today, and if you've been with us in the past few weeks, and even last year and the year before, they have provided all of the data for us. So the contracting data in the webinar series, again, is provided by them. The FedMine Federal Solution integrates data from 18 federal data sources and sets and creates a single convenient database that places the key data points at your fingertips. The GovSpend platform began as a spending and purchase order database specifically within the state, local, and education market. And today, because GovSpend has purchased FedMine back in 2021, the combination, so the newly acquired, we'll say FedMine, the new platform includes state, local, education, as well as federal data. So again, we want to thank GovSpend and FedMine for providing the data in the webinar series this year and previous years. The Virginia PTAC Procurement Technical Assistance Center, soon to be labeled Apex Accelerators. They're over at George Mason University. They offer free one-on-one counseling to established government contracting firms in Virginia on federal, state, and local procurement topics. If you're interested in learning more, please use the links provided to explore services. You can review homework recommendations and register for live trainings. They've also got some links to agencies and other self-directed learning. Online resources and group trainings are free with no restriction on where your business is located. They've got one-on-one counseling, but that's limited to eligible client companies. You've got a phone number and an email, as well as some links there that will help you out. Again, if you're looking for the PowerPoint slides, you can find them on SlideShare. The Greater Reston Chamber of Commerce monthly GovCon Council meeting happens on the fourth Tuesday of, or the last Tuesday or fourth Tuesday of every month. They had their last event yesterday. If you're looking for information about the Government Contracting Council, please contact Alicia Field. Her email address is there at the lower portion of your screen. The GovCon Contracting Academy is the government contracting industry's leading training provider for small businesses. They offer a comprehensive 25 courses, which includes 150 lessons. And this is a training program for government contracting small businesses, executives, which addresses every aspect of leading a small business to success in the federal sector. The program also includes hundreds of business tools, processes, marketing templates, and sample proposal sections that will accelerate your company's success. The program is 100% actionable and taught by proven government contracting executives. They also have an ISO Quick Cert program, and that provides easy, fast, and affordable plan to the ISO certification. You can use the coupon code there, which will save you a good chunk of change. Bid speed. Do you want help winning government contracts? Bid speed helps and you win. Opportunities from every federal, state, local, public source in the United States. You need to find a teaming partner, incumbent point of contact, expiring contracts, etc. What about a compliance matrix or proposal templates? Do you want a solution to win with your GSA schedule? Maybe an easier, better way. If you said yes, log in at bidspeed.com. Bidspeed helps you succeed and is an official partner of the US SBA's 7J Management and Technical Assistance Program. Get started today at bidspeed.com. You've got a link, you've got a phone number, actually a link and an email address there to get more information. The Federal Business Council, FBC. Events are the ultimate engagement channel to bring government and industry together. 68% of government personnel report that they attend more than one event each year. The Federal Business Council has worked with government and industry for 45 plus years to create gatherings where ideas are shared and to help government achieve its goals. This includes agency industry days, cybersecurity symposiums, tech expos, and off-site meetings. The Federal Business Council provides full lifecycle meeting planning and event management. With over 5,000 meetings under their belt, FBC has the experience, systems, and personnel to make your next event exceptional. You can learn more at fbcinc.com, which is printed there on your screen. Okay, a little bit about the series. Again, today's session is being recorded. It's complimentary. If you're looking for the PowerPoint, again, it's on the SlideShare site. This is the schedule. Again, 40 weeks, 40 of the top contractors. We did this by their gross revenue in the federal sector over the course of the last, I think, 6 or 7 fiscal years. Obviously, we're covering Boeing today, and we'll end on the 40th will be GlaxoSmithKline in November. Again, these are all being recorded, so you can get recordings at the end of that business day. So we assume that most people are attending simply because they're interested in subcontracting with these companies. And so we just wanted to provide some complimentary information. If you're subcontracting, you should be well aware of the flow down clauses, whether you are becoming a subcontractor to any of these firms or anyone else for civilian agencies or within the defense sector. So you should therefore be aware of FAR Part 44. The link there takes you to our YouTube channel, which covers FAR Part 44 on subcontracting, and then BFARs for the defense component. Again, those are complimentary. We've also got some other complimentary webinars on subcontracting. We kicked off the series in the beginning of February, just covering subcontracting with the primes. So we looked at market research, your strategies, marketing and business development, the legal aspects, how pricing fits into this, as well as compliance. You've got a link there to get to that webinar. We also looked at all 15 federal departments last year and dove into subcontracting within the main players within those federal departments. And then if you're just looking for strategic information or different, we'll say, slices of teaming, joint venturing, mentor protege, we've got about 34 plus webinars, again, all complimentary by using that link. Couple best practices. Obviously, if you are interested in subcontracting, you have to bring something to the table. So what is it that you do and what do you do really, really well? That's what the prime is going to be interested in, regardless of who the company is. There's plenty of 8A, there's plenty of women, there's plenty of veteran-owned businesses. What is really going to set you apart is by the relationships that you bring to the table, as well as what is your core competency. You want to come to the table with these guys showing where you are superior. What is it that you're bringing? So have you found a solicitation that you can handle 80% of the work, or you can handle a certain percentage of the work and you need them for the depth and breadth they bring to the table? Or do you have a lower price, a superior skill set? You know, what is it that again, you are bringing? What is your value? You also want to look at contracts that are coming up for a recompete. So who's the incumbent? What does the competitive landscape look like? And so you want to do your homework using all of the data that's out there. There's no other industry where you can go and find all of this information, what the contract value was, how many bidders there were, if it went to a woman-owned company, what contract vehicle was used. So use these websites. They are absolutely free. SAM.gov, USA Spending, FPDS, and there's 100 others that are out there, including pricing tools, public data on companies' pricing that you can use to do some homework before you go and start the conversation with these companies. So again, I can't say it enough. You, again, do your homework and research. You also want to sign up for Google Alerts. So if Boeing or any of these other companies, or even companies that aren't on our top 40 list, are companies that you want to work with, you want to make sure that you're basically stalking them and that you know everything about them. So hunt them and hunt them well. Google Alerts can give you good news, bad news. You want to know it all. So and then once you do go to sit down with them, customize your capability statement to make it specific to that potential partner. Highlight your capabilities and where it intersects with the work that you're trying to pursue together. You also want to ensure that you have registered on their website under their small business vendor database as accurately as possible, and include as much information as possible about your company. Sign up for their newsletter, find out what events they're attending, exhibiting at, what associations are they members of, where are they speaking. Again, you really just want to know everything possible about them. When you connect with them on LinkedIn, make sure you're sending them a message. And this is regardless if you're reaching out to the SBLOs, these are the small business liaison officers, or somebody that's in charge of any of the programs. So your program managers within these companies. And make sure that you know the difference. Because the first thing they're going to do is ask you, did you register on our website, and you know, what's your reason for contacting us? So don't just tell them you're an 8A company and you'd like to work with a large business. That's not going to get you very far. Again, make sure you have a reason and that you've done that homework up front. Okay, so today we're covering Boeing, and again, the data is brought to us by our friends over at GovSpend and FedMine. Some basic info, obviously their website. You want to make sure that you know their mission statement, you know, who the CEO, the chairman is. You want to know if they're publicly traded or not. And in fact, they are a publicly traded company, which should be common knowledge. Take a look at their stock price. Has it fluctuated over the years? Obviously, there was a big dip here, as you can see, in 2020, perhaps due to the pandemic and based on the nature of what their business is. These are good talking points. It's not going to help you there's no silver bullet. There's nothing here that's going to help you win a contract with Boeing, but being able to speak intelligently, show that you've done your homework, that you know as much as there is publicly available out there about their business, can certainly help. The small business registration, which should be pretty self-explanatory here and pretty easy to find on their website. They have their supplier diversity group. If you click that, it will prompt you through some data elements that you'll insert in order to become registered. And that's not going to get you a contract with them or subcontract with them. It's just part of the process. You're still going to need to do homework and bring something to the table of value. Okay, so a lot of these large businesses, as companies grow, they're going to have subsidiaries and different DUNS numbers and different UEI numbers. And so just to let you know, we were talking about the parent company here of Boeing. So this is the parent. Obviously, they are not tax exempt, and their main line of business shows as manufacturer. Okay, some LinkedIn information, which is always a smart thing to do, is look at their LinkedIn, make sure you're following their company. They've got listed here over 100,000 employees. And then you want to look at the SBLOs and also program managers. If you know that specific information about a specific program that perhaps is coming up for recompete, or one of their programs that could be involved in a source assault or an RFI that you saw. So you want to certainly connect with these people. Subcontracts managers are people that are doing more of the paperwork, not necessarily the SBLOs. But if you can't find an SBLO, then you can certainly try one of the subcontracts managers. Okay, so now we're going to look at historically going back. I think we went back to 2016. Again, the data is coming to us from GovSpend FedMine. And first we look at civilian, which Boeing's a big defense contractor. So the numbers that we see here are all in the billions, which is obviously a large amount of money. But it is a very, 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 very small portion of their overall federal government business. And so if we look at what we see here for Boeing, NASA has pretty consistently been awarding contracts to Boeing over the years. DHS and DOT, if you look at 2018, is kind of where things started to flip, and DHS contracts in 2018 to 2019 skyrocketed from 5.8 billion, more than doubled over to almost 17 million, and stayed steady in 2020, and then significantly dropped in 2021, but picked up in 2022. 2023 is, again, these are fiscal years, so this year-to-date numbers, this is why they seem probably a little bit smaller. But keep that in mind. And the reason we went back far, as we have been doing consistently in this series, and not just going back 3 or 4 fiscal years, COVID obviously was an anomaly. And so some companies, depending upon what it is they're providing, products or services, either saw spikes or dips during those fiscal years. So we want to make sure that we're getting a complete picture and not some information that's been skewed because of the pandemic. So just keep that in mind, that when you do see some peaks and valleys during those fiscal years, that you know exactly what is why they had those spikes or dips. 2018 seemed to be their best fiscal year with 2.2 billion. And 2016 kind of came in, we'll say, second place. Behind that, 2022, not a bad year, and they're on an upward trend if we just start looking at 2020 going forward. Again, 2023 is partial, and these are all fiscal years, not calendar years. So if we look at their averages over these last few years, it's going to range from 1.5 to 2.1 billion. When we hop over to defense, it's a completely different story. and civilian work is just a drop in the bucket here compared to defense. 2018 was really their best fiscal year, as we saw in civilian, and continued also in the defense sector, with the Air Force contracts being their lion's share of the contracts, about 8 to 11 billion on average with the Air Force over these last few fiscal years. Navy saw some big spikes in 2020, where they kind of peaked at, we'll say, the 9.5, and then dipped almost by half in 2021. 2022 also did not look great for the Navy, and year to date, keep in mind that defense is usually a couple months late for security reasons in reporting data. But we look at these averages, we're looking at anywhere from 13 to 26 billion versus what we saw in the civilian, which was 1.5 to 2.1. Fiscal year 18 and 19 seem to be the best years. 2022 did not look great at 13 billion. So just keep these trends in mind, and some of the data that we get into will then give you more information that you can use to continue sleuthing and doing some additional homework. Look at the industries, the top NAICS codes, the North American Industry Classification System that Boeing kind of plays in. Boeing is pretty much a household name, and should be no surprise here that their NAICS code is the 336411, which is the aircraft manufacturing. We'll say kind of coming in here in second place is the guided missile and space vehicle manufacturing, which is a very, very, very small portion of their overall NAICS code. So if you just look at kind of the aircraft versus the guided missile, you can see that aircraft manufacturing by far takes the lion's share of the work. And that's fairly consistent across all of the years. 2020 was a big spike in the guided missile and space vehicle manufacturing at the 4.1 billion. And I don't think we didn't do totals because there are obviously going to be a lot more NAICS codes. We just looked at the top 5. So let's say you're providing IT services, and all of these companies that we're looking at are going to probably have some sort of component of IT services or program and project management that go as kind of subsets of these primary NAICS codes. So just keep that in mind, that these are the contracts that are awarded, but there's still additional subcontracting work under those. Okay, now we're looking at the contracts with a subcontracting requirement on the civilian side. So the sub-K requirements are for the contracts that are $750,000 or above. For non-construction. Construction, I believe, is now at $1 million. So DHS shows up here for fiscal year 2022, and then obviously year to date for 2023. Treasury shows up, which seems to be a little odd, so you would have to kind of dig into that to look at, and that's just a simple search on SAM or whoever your data aggregator provider is that you're using. To find out where Treasury and Boeing intersect. And now we'll look on the defense side. And this will more or less mirror what we saw when we looked at the overall contracts. So the numbers that we looked at previously is all of their contracts, and then those with the sub-K requirement, again, as I said, will more or less mirror what we saw. So again, the Air Force and the Navy are showing up here. It's kind of the top areas where the dollars are going. Fiscal year 2021 looks good for the Air Force, which again is what we saw on the previous slide. When we have the sector totals, we see a dip, obviously, from fiscal year 2021 to 2022. And 2023 is still underway with late reporting because it is the defense sector. Okay, and then we broke out the independent agencies, so GSA and NASA. NASA seems to have a good chunk there. Kind of makes sense based on the industry that Boeing is in and the nature of the work at NASA. Now we're going to look at the subcontracts awarded by Boeing by agency, so a little more granular level. And on the box on the right, this is, I think, very helpful information because the total actions, these are number of contracts. So you can kind of do some math to come up with averages, which is, we'll say, good and bad. So the total dollars is huge. And then the actions, again, are the number of contracts. So obviously the Navy is the big winner, and Air Force, as we mentioned. DHS is there at the bottom, and these are in billions, so there is still money associated with DHS where it says Homeland Security. You don't see any color there just because it still is in billions, so the dollars there are probably in the millions. NASA, as we saw in the previous slide, is showing up with some dollars there. And I think a takeaway here is simply to, if you're looking at doing work with Boeing, they're going to have a ton of work at Navy, but everybody and their brother is probably running towards in that direction. So I think a helpful piece may be, steer away from the flock where there's less competition, and maybe look at some other work. Plus, you also want to ensure that you meet all the requirements. If there are specific requirements with the DFARS and the subcontracting flow-down clauses, you want to be cognizant of those and aware. Those were the links that we provided in the earlier portion of today's webinar. And again, you can do some averages and some math there using the figures that are in the box on the right-hand side. Keep in mind that averages are just that, averages. So there could be one contract that is huge, and then 3,734 contracts that are very, very small. So again, the averages are just that, averages. If we look at the industry, again, this is going to mirror more of the NAICS codes, where we only showed you the top 5 NAICS codes. This runs down, including, I think we've got 10 here. And keep in mind that these are contracts that are awarded under those NAICS codes, so there still could be additional work that's not related to, well, that is related to aircraft manufacturing, but it could be project management, or maybe there's an IT component there. So again, no real surprises here. Boeing, we know they're in aircraft manufacturing, and the usual suspects are the ones who are awarding the propensity of the contracts to Boeing. Okay, and now we're going to actually look at their subcontractors. Keep in mind that subcontractors can actually be large businesses, and those contractors can award contracts underneath their contracts. So there are, tier 2 and tier 3 subcontractors. Most of these businesses are, I believe, are large businesses. Some household names: Northrop Grumman, BAE, Raytheon, Honeywell, Rockwell Collins, etc. Names that you would expect to find in this industry. Aligned Precision out of Anaheim seems to be, we'll say, kind of neck and neck almost with Northrop Grumman. And then you've got plenty of other players as well. So if there is a specific contract that has one of these companies as a subcontractor, there are still opportunities to work under these companies. And it's fairly unlikely that any of these large contracts that their first tier subcontractor would be a small business of, let's say 10 or less employees or something along those lines. So just because these are the top 10 subawardees, I'm sure there's a list of the top 200 or 1,000 subawardees, and as you go further down that list, you'll get into some small businesses, but not to say that there are not opportunities within these larger guys as you're a tier 3 or tier 2 subcontractor. Just be cognizant of pricing. As you get further down the food chain, you're going to be squeezed more on price. We've got plenty of webinars on that topic. These are the top 5 subcontracts reported, and I believe this is overall. I don't think we broke this out into civilian or defense. And yeah, this is just a continuation actually of that last slide. So about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th column down over, you see the subaward contractors. So again, that Align Precision out of Anaheim. You've got the amount there. What would perhaps behoove you here is to copy and paste that the first column, the contract award, and if in fact you are doing work in that NAICS code, and look in more detail at that contract. So we've given you the data, and you just need to run with it and plug this in. And use your own devices and strategies to figure out if these are contracts that you want to pursue, a relationship that you want to pursue with Boeing or one of their subcontractors. And again, making sure that also you meet all of the requirements in the FAR flow down clauses, as well as just the actual solicitation. We thought it would be helpful to look at the top 5 GWACs for all of the companies that we're looking at this year. And this one, no surprise, they're on the TSA contract vehicle. And most agency or most departments and some agencies have their own contract vehicles. Again, because of the nature of the work that Boeing does, no surprise that that they are on the TSA contract. They've had the GSA Oasis unrestricted pool over the years. And again, you can look at public data on this to look at pricing and other specific contracts that they've won through these contracts. These are dollars that, again, are obligated. This is in thousands. So keeping in mind here, and we'll make some summaries here at the end of the presentation, that these numbers are kind of small compared to their overall business. And here's the breakout of the dollars for those contract vehicles. So even though on that last slide, Oasis, again, because it was in thousands of dollars, you didn't really see any color on the chart, simply because the numbers were a little bit small, as you can see here. But the bulk of the money obviously is running for contract vehicles, specifically running through the TSA, their training systems, acquisition, contract vehicle. If you're not familiar with that, go to Google, help yourself, and pull up the data on that to look at who the contractors are, who's winning the bulk of the work, if this is in fact a contract vehicle either that you're interested in or being a subcontractor on. Now we're going to look forward, and we're looking at the contracts that are expiring. And the reason we use the 750K, as you guys should know by now, is that the contracts valued at over 750,000 are going to require that sub-K plan to subcontracting requirements. And you've got your contract numbers there, number of transactions. So these are all probably multi-year contracts. And again, you can do some math to figure out what the transaction, the number of transaction versus the total sales. Do some division to determine the average dollar value of those transactions. Copy and paste that contract number into SAM to get more details. I would even say you could probably plug it into Google to get additional data. You'll probably come up with some of the data aggregators that have additional data on this, on these contracts. So do you want to pursue the last contract beginning with the N, ending with D0026 with 222 transactions, or the top contract starting with HQ ending in 0004 with 283. The 7.2 obviously is a higher number than the 824 there at the bottom. So if you do the math, you can make some decisions about strategy and kind of what to pursue there. Again, those are going to be averages. Some concluding remarks here. Obviously, most of their work is with the defense sector, should be no surprise. Obviously, you've got some TSA and NASA work. NASA is going to fall as an independent agency. But we're looking at, double digits here for defense work versus, just I shouldn't say just, but 1.5 to 2.1 billion on the civilian side. If you're looking to stay away from the flock and less competition, you probably are better served in the civilian market. And obviously you can see what their average government revenue is. The contract vehicle that we looked at for TSA represented a couple $100,000 in revenue, but that is a small portion even of just their civilian work. Again, that can serve multiple purposes. Maybe not everybody is running in that direction, so you could be well suited by pursuing some subcontracting work through the TSA contract vehicle, but there may not be a ton there. And again, just keep in mind your FAR and DFAR flow downs, which obviously are going to impact the work that you can or cannot do, and if you meet all of those requirements. I believe that's all that we have for today. We want to thank everybody for participating. Again, today's recording will be on our YouTube channel. If you go over there and just subscribe to the channel, it does not cost you anything except 5 minutes of your time or probably less, and you'll get an alert when this webinar is uploaded. The SlideShare site is where you can find the PowerPoint. Next week, we cover Northrop Grumman. And again, the series runs through November 15th, closing with medical provider GlaxoSmithKline. If you're looking for the full schedule, you can go to our website, which is highlighted there at the top. Takes you to the top 40. Don't miss our spring soiree. We're almost sold out. We are sold out of sponsored tables, but it's 2 hours of networking. There'll be about 200 plus federal government contractors present, as well as all of these fine sponsors. Okay, and we want to thank everybody for participating and hope to see you next week. Thank you.